You want to know who you should pick when you're on the clock in your fantasy draft, no matter what position. We're here to help you. Stay tuned and we'll let you know. Welcome back, Fantasy Endgame community. I'm Pierre, he's Chris. We've gone over our round one rankings and tiers. We're going to do it for round two to help you know who to take on the way back. Look, the early round picks can absolutely lay the foundation for the rest of the season, so you want to nail it. Let's get into it. We're now on tier 4. All right, so this is the first tier of round 2. Got a little bit of difference here already. Chris, I got Travis Kelce as an early second round pick. I don't see him in your tier here.
No, I just can't bring myself to take a tight end this early. And I think Travis Kelce will be great. But for me, there's just too many, upside guys here that I just like more than Travis Kelce. Nothing wrong with Travis Kelce in the second round. I think that's right where he should be. Just not quite in this tier yet for me.
All right, look, makes sense. I still think he's going to be the TE1. I know he wasn't last year. I think it's going to happen for sure with Tyreek Hill gone. I love getting that positional advantage because it is a huge one. So I got him here 13th overall. Now, I do notice Mike Evans has slipped into, as high as 14 for you. Some people are now saying they're kind of fading him. Maybe that's too high. You don't think it's too high for a guy who's, I guess advanced professional athlete age?
No, I don't. He's 29, yes, but he's a wide receiver, so it's okay. I mean, Diggs is 29, Devontae Adams is 30, and we're not having any problems drafting those guys. I talked about Tom Brady. If you watch our bust video, I think Tom Brady is going to be a bust from our fantasy perspective, but I still think he's going to be a great QB, and he has no one else really to throw to. Mike Evans has to have a huge target share this year, so I think we could see Mike Evans possibly have the best season he's ever had, at least from a fantasy standpoint. So to me, just so much upside for Mike Evans this year. I love him in drafts this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a pick you should worry about. He's pretty much the safest player you can imagine as far as floor. He's, 1,000 yards, it's in the books already, right? And there's a good chance he gets double-digit touchdowns, so we really can't argue against it there. All right, now let's keep moving on. We got our next tier here in round 2. Got some differences. I see Evans at the top for me, and of course Kelce there for you. So we're really not that far apart. Now, I do also notice a guy you've been talking up all preseason. Time to defend your Michael Pittman pick yet again. You got Michael Pittman mid-second round. Some people might say the same thing. Too much helium. People getting too carried away. Obviously, you don't think so.
No, people are going to comment below and they're going to say, oh my God, Michael Pittman over Deebo Samuel, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown. Like this is 2021 or 2020 or 2019 or whatever. Like you got to look forward. You got to look ahead. And those guys to me still really like them, but they all have things that have happened that their value and their fantasy upside may be lower this year than it's been in the past. Whereas Michael Pittman, it's the opposite. This is going to be the best Michael Pittman we have ever seen. Now, granted, it's only his third year, so we haven't seen, a ton of Michael Pittman, but everything is there for Michael Pittman to smash. Alec Pierce, fine. He's nice, but whatever. Paris Campbell, can he even stay on the field? And if he does, yeah, whatever. Mo Alley Cox. There's no competition for targets here. And people are going to say Matt Ryan is bad, but that's because they don't understand. They don't look deeper than what they saw on TV and what they saw in the box score. Matt Ryan is actually very good. He is a massive upgrade over Carson Wentz. And Michael Pittman is also very good. This is like one of those perfect worlds collide type of things. I'm not going to say Cooper Kupp because that's crazy, but I think Michael Pittman is going to shock a lot of people and have a huge season this year.
Yeah, and look, sometimes you have to just acknowledge the fact that players get hyped up and, the fantasy community buys in for a reason, right? There are legitimate reasons to be excited about Pittman this year, so I really don't have him too much lower. I do have A.J. Brown higher. I know you've got him in your next group. Look, I think the Eagles clearly made a big move, right? This was a splash on draft night for a reason. They want this pass offense to work. It really didn't for the second half of last year because there just weren't enough weapons. Obviously, they invested in him. He's going to be the number one guy there, and he does have a complement in Devontae Smith, which a lot of times that does help the other receiver, the primary guy, because he's not getting shadowed by every single cornerback that the defense can throw at him. So A.J. Brown, also a guy, look, regardless of what you think of Jalen Hurts, I think Endgame community knows how we feel about Jalen Hurts, clearly, but he's not a guy who's going to depend on pinpoint accuracy. He is Debo-esque in the fact that he gets the ball in his hands and then he does his work. Huge yak guy, and we know that he's got the body that he can do red zone work as well. So I'm high on AJ Brown. Now you got him just a little bit lower. Now let's go talk about our next tier here. So we have guys like T. Higgins there. You got him at 20. I got him 23. All right. We both think he's a solid, I guess, high-end wide receiver too, based on where we're looking right now. Tyreek Hill, all right, fair enough. I get it. Yeah, I'm a little bit lower. I'm not going to complain about that. Then you got AJ Brown. I noticed Dalvin Cook now all of a sudden just appearing at 23. Look, some people are taking him in the first round. Tell me why you think he's barely a second-round pick.
Yeah, I don't get why people love Dalvin Cook. He wasn't even good in fantasy last year. And if you look at his numbers last year were more in line with what he did in 2019. Nowhere near what he did in 2020. We saw his touches per game go down. We saw his carries per game go down. He's not a huge pass catcher. So there's this misconception that Dalvin Cook catches a bunch of passes, but he really doesn't. And now the offense is going to be totally different. We're already hearing they're probably going to run more 3 wide receiver sets. They're probably going to throw the ball way higher than they did with Mike Zimmer. I just don't think the opportunity is going to be there for Dalvin Cook. I think he'll still be fine. He's still going to be, getting the bulk of the touches in this offense, but this isn't going to be an offense that, only throws the ball 55% of the time. They're going to be more like 60+% of the time. They have weapons in the receiving game. And I know people said, oh, if he just scored more touchdowns, he would have been fine last year. Okay, sure. Go ahead. Gamble on touchdowns on your first round pick if that's the thing you like to do. Not for me. I just think there are guys at both positions with more upside than Dalvin Cook, and they're not as old as Dalvin Cook, and they don't have all the wear and tear. So still think he's fine. Back end of the second round, I'm okay taking him as, potentially my RB2 or my RB1 if I went wide receiver early. But to me, first round, Dalvin Cook is just crazy this year.
Yeah, I don't have him as a first rounder, obviously, but I don't think I can wait too long because, like you said, this offense without Mike Zimmer, it's going to be better, right? It should be a better, more dynamic offense, a little less old school. And I know that there's going to be probably more passing, but you know what? I think even if he takes a slight hit in volume as far as touches, I think he sees an uptick in efficiency. Some recency biases at play here. Look, Cook, obviously not his best year last year because he missed a few games. It just so happened they were at the end of the season and really hurt a lot of people in the fantasy playoffs. But it wasn't like this was a torn Achilles or anything that's going to bother him this year. So, you know what? He didn't quite pay off last year, especially if you did spend a first-round pick on him. I think he's still a solid top-tier running back, at least in the second round. All right, and then the last guy I really want to talk about is your last guy and mine in the second round. I really struggled with mine, honestly. I thought about Travis Etienne. I know that there's definitely the upside for him. I'm just a little worried about that Jags offense actually being legit and leading to touchdown opportunities. But you're a believer. You're all in on Etienne.
Yeah, and I mean, you have Alvin Kamara there. To me, Travis Etienne is like the new Alvin Kamara, right? Like, Alvin Kamara was great. I loved Alvin Kamara. His situation this year to me is just terrible. Huge red flags there. Whereas Etienne's situation isn't. And I mean, I get it. It's the Jags, and they don't have a great offensive line. But he's going to get the bulk of the touches there. He's going to catch a ton of passes. I think Trevor Lawrence. Look, Trevor Lawrence, people forget because he got stuck with Urban Meyer last year. Trevor Lawrence was a generational talent in college at QB. He wasn't a great talent. He was a generational talent. He's looked good in the preseason so far. I think we see a much, much, much better Trevor Lawrence this year. And I think this offense surprises a lot of people with how good they are. And Travis Etienne will be a huge beneficiary of that. And James Robinson talked about it coming off Achilles. He's not going to be a factor this year. Snoop Connor, like for real, come on, Snoop Connor. I like the kid, but let's be real. So to me, I think Etienne will be what Alvin Kamara used to be. Not a guy who gets 300 plus touches, but also a guy who doesn't need that many touches because of his efficiency and his work in the passing game.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not against Etienne here, even in the second round. It's a little rich for me, but the thing is, I just wonder if the opportunities in the red zone will be enough to really, boost him to this level. It's not that they have anybody else that they're going to put in his place. It's just like how many plays are they're really going to run on offense by year's end? Is this going to be a fast-paced offense? Is it going to be efficient? So I get that. The thing is, Kamara, look, I put him there because obviously we're hearing now there's no suspension. It's not going to happen. They're going to just push it to next year. So that's out of the way. And the thing with Kamara, too, is he's an efficient running back. He makes the most of his touches. I think he's still got that big playability. Look, this is not a guy who has a ton of wear and tear just yet because he hasn't been given the ball 300 times in the ground in a season, right? He's mainly a pass catcher. I think he'll still be used in that capacity. And really the fact that they have some more receivers in play, I think they're going to depend on Kamara just as much as always. They really don't have anybody else at running back that is a threat to him, especially in that pass catching role. And look, really, the only guy I maybe would consider here besides Etienne would be Nick Chubb. And that's only if Kareem Hunt actually gets traded. And even then, you're talking about a PPR league. Are you really going to say that Chubb has more upside than Kamara? So, I mean, it's kind of a toss-up for me, but really, I kind of find it hard to argue against Alvin Kamara based on the fact that we know he should be in play for a full season, and he's still one of the most dynamic running backs in the game. All right, so that's our breakdown of round 2. We did this for round 1. If you haven't caught that video yet, check it out. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, do it now. Guys, we're going to be here all draft season and during the regular season to help you win. That is our end game. All right, thanks for watching.